Resume recording. Okay, there we go. Now I'll be able to share the screen.
Oh, good. Zeb's eating too, so I don't feel so bad.
Yeah, you're not alone. Are you guys seeing my screen right now?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome.
How about now?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right. So I wanted to put this class together to be able to just kind of break down. I just bought my first investment property. I actually bought it owner occupied. I just bought a 3-family. I plan on living in it for about a year or so, and then probably doing it again, and hopefully being able to do another owner occupied. Eventually, the bank's going to stop me from doing that. I'm not going to be able to do it too many years in a row, but I'm going to get what I can out of them. But I want to just put this together just to kind of show how I got the property and just some different tactics when talking to the owners of the properties and different things like that. So a quick overview. So I'm going to talk about what type of investment property do you want? When is the right time to buy? That's always a big question. A lot of people are like, well, when should I buy? If the market's so hot, should I buy investment properties now or should I just wait for the market to crash? How to find the property, how to finance the property, and then where to look. So location wise of where you want to buy the investment properties. So what type of investment properties? There's more than this, but I just did the ones that I'm somewhat familiar with and people that I know do currently and things like that. So I got a multifamily, I got a 3-family. My goal is to, like I said, keep getting more. And there's of course a ton of different ways to invest in real estate. You could do Airbnbs, you can do fix and flips, mobile home parks, which I was talking to Kristen about this the other day. Then you could just do single family buy and holds and condo buy and holds. The latter two, I personally wouldn't get into myself just because I think it's too much liability for not as much cash flow, especially for the single family. You have the same costs as you would for a multifamily in the sense of roof and siding and big fixtures like that, things that are going to cost a good amount of money. Yet you're only getting one source of income. And if the property goes vacant, then you're out the total income of the property. So personally, I don't ever plan on doing that, going into single family buy and holds and things like that. Just for strictly that reason, just because I don't want to have all the overhead with much less, I think, benefit. And then the right time to buy. So this is, like I said, a question that I think all of us as real estate agents get all the time. And I think that this depends really what kind of property you're interested in. And so I'll ask you guys real quick, just out of curiosity, when buyers ask you this, being in real estate, what's the answer that you usually give them if you get this question? Any takers?
It's always the right time to buy.
That is also my answer. I think that is also the answer for the right investment properties as well. Obviously, for fix and flips and things like that, it's not always the right time to buy them. If the market's heading down, it's much riskier to buy fix and flips because you could buy it at a price and expect to be able to sell it 6 months down the road for X price, and it might not be worth that anymore. However, for a multifamily, if they're cash flowing, rents don't change as much from at least what I've noticed. They don't change as much as purchase price of properties. So for instance, if you're buying a multifamily for say $500,000, 3-family, and you're getting say $2,000 a month per unit in rent, you're going to be cash flowing pretty decent. However, the market starts to crash, your property becomes less valuable, but the rents in that probably aren't going to drop in half. They're not going to be $1,000 a month. They're probably going to drop down to maybe 18, 17. Zeb would be a good person to probably jump in on the rents because he's owned investment property for a while. But Zeb, do you have any experience with that and with the rents and if they change dramatically in a crash and whatnot?
They won't change dramatically, but I have had tenants ask about rent reductions as they may read or see on the internet, Zillow, wherever, that the rents have come down, comparing their place to other places that rents might be less. And I have, if they're a good tenant, I don't want to lose them. I don't want to, when the vacancies are higher, and then the rents will come down. Boston has come down 16, 17% in some of the high-end areas right now.
Yeah.
That's happening right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too, especially with the inner city right now. That's happening like crazy. Um, but yeah, so the way that I look at that is, if you're buying multifamily and you factor in getting, say, 75% of the rent, 60% of the rent, or you just or you factor in the vacancy rate, I think that you're still in good shape when buying multifamily, because you're still going to be able to cover your mortgage. You might not make as much cash flow, but you'll still be able to cover that mortgage and have the tenants pay down your investment properties, the way that I look at it. Um, but like I said, as for, you know, fix and flips and things like that, I think that it's a tough time. It's a tough time to buy them when the market's heading in a downturn. Just because, unless you, of course, you can get it at a great price, then it really doesn't matter. I mean, if you can get it at, say, 40 cents on the dollar, then you're going to be fine regardless, probably, as long as the market doesn't just dramatically change in 6 months. But that's my thought on that. I think that it's with buy and hold multifamilies. I think it's okay to buy anywhere, and I think it's also something that I heard on a podcast before was a guy talking about. He's like, if you're not, because like there's a lot of hesitancy of buying now because the market's so high and everything, and he's like, if you're not in the market now, or if you're not in the market in the ups, you're not going to be in the market in the downs. And so basically his point is, if you're buying now, you should be buying at all times. Anytime you see a good deal, to buy it, regardless of the timing. And I thought about that, and it makes sense when it comes to a cash flow standpoint, because you might be cash flowing a little more in a better market, but you'll still be cash flowing, or still at least be able to cover your mortgage if you do the numbers right and you look at the numbers correctly. And then how to find the properties. So this is the way that I found my property, and Kristen's doing the same thing right now, and I've talked to Dissy about this, and I think that there's definitely a good amount of different ways to find properties. Okay, never mind. But what I would say is that, oh shoot. So I did mailers to find my property. The way that I set these mailers up, I did it through Public Record and MLS, and I filtered out the different areas that I wanted. So I did it town by town, and I looked up absentee owners that own the property before 2006. And why I did this is because anyone that has bought in it recently is, well, they're either not going to sell it, or they're going to want a high price for it because they bought it in the height of the market. So I was looking for people that bought it back before 2006, back in the 90s or early 2000s, that maybe bought it for significantly cheaper than what it's worth now, and maybe hasn't updated or done any work to it. And it gives me an opportunity to be able to get it at a lesser price, go put the sweat equity into it, and then, have a more valuable property. So I set these mailers up through MLS, through Public Record, and so I searched that. I did so before 2006, and then Kristen actually just showed me this the other day. I guess you can do number of units, which I didn't know, which is awesome, in Public Record. So I was doing it by bathroom count, because I was figuring that was probably the closest way I could get to the number of units that I was looking for. So I was looking specifically for 3 or 4 unit properties, because I wanted to use that owner occupied loan. So I needed under 4 units, but I didn't want a 2-family because I wanted to be able to get cash flow out of it. So I was looking for 3 to 4 units. And then I literally I went through each town individually. I put them all into a spreadsheet, and then I created labels for them. And then I literally just typed up a letter, printed, I think it was like 150 of them, or like 200 or something. And I sent these out. And I personally, you'll have to check on this. I don't know if you have to put this on the letter, or if you, being a real estate agent, if you have to disclose that on the letter. If someone knows the answer to that in this, that would be great. But I don't know for sure if you do have to disclose that, or if you have to just disclose that in a conversation that you have with them. If Kristen, do you know the answer to that?
No, but our broker of record should. Hey, Zebby.
Steve, you know the answer?
Now he's leaving. He just took off.
No, I can't say that I know it 100%. I've sent out letters, and a lot of the letters I sent out, I have my card with a letter.
Okay, cool.
So they get that at the same time. So I've never been questioned about it.
Hmm.
I have purchased a fair amount of properties by sending out small cards, asking if they want to sell.
Cool. That's awesome. Okay. So that's still up in the air, but I know that I didn't put that I was a real estate agent looking for clients or anything like that. I put specifically, I'm buying my first home, my first investment property. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in selling, or if you're not interested in selling right now, if you'd be interested in just having a conversation in case you'd like to sell down the road. I'm already pre-approved. I would love the opportunity just to have a conversation with you about this. There's no, and I put that there's no urgency. I don't need to buy one fast. I'm just looking to get one. And I sent this out before I was actually ready to buy one, because my lease wasn't up in my building until March. So I sent this out, I don't know, quite a few months before I was actually ready to get it. But what happened was I started getting phone calls back. I got, actually Rich Lannon was one of them. I sent it to him and one of his investment properties. But I started getting calls back from, I got probably, I don't know, 5 to 7 responses. And down at the bottom, I just put my phone number, and then I put, I have a Google Voice number that I use for all my mailers. And I did this because I don't want someone to call and me not answer, and they just hear a real estate agent's voicemail, and then they're like, oh, he's just trying to get me to sell my property with him or whatever, and then not answer the call back when I call him back. So I use a Google Voice number with just my name in the voicemail, and then I got, I don't know, probably 5 to 7 calls back, and some of them were interested in selling. Some of them were just kind of up in the air. Some of them wanted an outrageous number for their property, and I was just like, no, thank you. But regardless of what they said to me on that conversation, all I was trying to do was just set up a meeting with them and get face to face, just have a conversation with them face to face. And one, just to show that I'm serious about buying a property, but two, also just to get a personal touch to it so that they're not just talking to a random person on the other side of the phone. And then one guy called me, and I just was having a conversation with him, and he's like, yeah, I'm not really interested in selling right now. And but if I ever am in the future, and he just started kind of giving me a little bit of his backstory of how he started investing in property and stuff. And he's like, actually, I have a friend that might be interested in selling, and he connected me to his friend. And so you never really know what's going to come from those conversations. So that's why I always try to be open-minded when I have them. Just have a conversation with them, be personable, and just talk to them like a normal person. You know, there's nothing to be nervous or uncomfortable about. It's just another person. And and then I ended up looking at a few different properties, and the one that I picked was the one that I bought because it was what I was looking for. It was a 3-family. It needed work, not anything major, just needed cosmetics updates, and it was things that I could do relatively easy. I have a lot of friends that are contractors and plumbers and electricians and all that stuff. So, and family members. So I could do it all relatively easy at a lower cost, I would say. And I started the renovation on it. And so that, the reason why I chose that property in particular, because there was another one I looked at that was a similar situation, but he wanted more money for the property. It was in a better location. It was in Weymouth, and I could have got a little bit better rents, but I just couldn't, like, I mean, I don't even think I would have qualified for it at the time. So I chose to go with this one, and it worked out great for monthly payments and the cash flow and all that. Another way to find properties is just talk to other real estate agents in the area, other real estate agents that you see selling a lot of multifamilies, and just try to talk to them and tell them that, like, you know, you won't try to get the buyer side commission if he brings the property to you to buy it, that he can get both sides of the commission, whatever it is. You know, just have a conversation with other agents in the area, build those relationships. And then calling rentals. So I haven't had much success with this, but I've heard of people having success with this. talked to people that have that this is how they found their first property. And they would, if they're driving down the road and they see a rental sign out front of a 3 family, and they would just call the number and just say, "Hey, I'm not looking to rent the property, but I'm wondering if you want to sell it." And reason why I think that this could be a beneficial way to do it is that someone who is trying to rent a property and it's been vacant for a while and they can't get a tenant in there for the last few months, and who knows, maybe they just, you catch them at the right time and they've just had enough of the property and they just want to sell it, or they want to take advantage of the market and sell it, and just ask them if they'd be willing to sell the property. And even if they're not, ask them if they mind if you keep in touch with them if they're thinking about selling in the next 5 years or so. And then it's a property that you could potentially buy down the road. The door knock one was more for fix and flips. I put that on there just more for just when you see a rundown property, or I personally, when I see a rundown property, I won't just go knock on the door. I'll go find out first if the owner lives at that property. So I'll go on public record and look up the property owner address. And then I'll usually send them a like note in the mail, just handwritten note, ask them if they would be interested in talking about selling the property. And if I don't get a response, then at times I'll door knock if it's something that I think has like great potential for, depending on the area. I haven't flipped any properties myself, but I work with a few investors that do, that I could always, connect, that would be willing to buy it if it's at a good price. And then I just put sometimes MLS, because sometimes you can find good investment properties on MLS if you're searching regularly. And I mean, it's definitely tough right now in like the South Shore area. If you're trying to buy a multifamily, I have clients that are trying to buy multifamilies in this area, and it's really hard. I mean, it's just, to me, it seems very overpriced in like the Weymouth area and in the Quincy area and all that. So it's really tough to find decent cash flowing properties in those areas, but you never know, something could pop up, or it could just be like a dump of a property that you could put some renovation costs into, and you never know, you might just get lucky. And then financing the property. So I did, like I said, I did an owner occupied loan for mine. But there's different ways that you can finance properties. There's just traditional financing for investment financing, which is usually 20 to 25% down. And that's for any number of units. If you go above 4 units, if you get a 5 unit or more, you usually have to do commercial lending, and they base the income of the property, not off of your personal income, I believe. Is that correct, Zeb? You probably know more than me.
If you're not gonna live in it, even if
Yeah.
it's a single 2 or 3 or 4, you'll have to put down 20-25%.
Yeah, no, I'm talking for like a 20 unit building or something. It's always commercial loans.
Yeah, then it's a different animal. It's probably a 10-year note with 25-year amortization rate, and whatever the rate is, it could, if they go by, it's like a 1.5% more than what the Fed rate might be to each other with the bank rate.
Okay, cool. Is that called a bridge loan? Is that what that is?
No,
Okay, that's something completely different.
bridge loan is totally different. You don't hear much about them anymore.
Okay, cool. We won't jump into that then. So traditional financing, 20 to 25% down when you're buying just anything under, or 4 or under units, and you're not living in it, not an owner occupied loan. Then we have owner occupied loan, which is the typical what you're working with your clients for usually. Those are the 3.5 to 5% down, sometimes 10%, 15%. Depends on what you choose. I did a 5% down loan. Reason I chose that over FHA is the loan that I chose, the PMI, the believe it or not, with the 3.5 versus the 5% loan, the FHA I got a better rate, but the 5% I have less PMI, so the payment was dollars difference. It was only a few dollars difference, and the PMI will drop off after 20% equity. So it's after like 7 years, there will be no more PMI on the property, and I could keep the loan for the life of it and not have to pay that PMI anymore. And then the other one is seller financing. This is something that I have not experienced myself. I've had clients that have been willing to seller finance properties of theirs and like land that they own and things like that for, like buildable land and things like that. I've heard of a lot of people doing it. I've listened to a ton of podcasts and done a lot of research on seller finance just because this is something that I was really interested in. Just because the bank will shut you down for loans after a certain amount of time, after a certain amount of properties that you get. And then, but there's benefits to both sides for seller finance. So, and I'll give a quick synopsis of what this is. So seller finance is basically the owner of the property becomes the lender. Basically, they give you the property, you owe them the note at that point. So they're the first holder of the note, and you'll pay them an interest rate for the money. So you'll basically be making the regular monthly payments, mortgage payment, but you'll be paying it to them instead of the bank. And they will charge the interest rate is negotiable, just like everything else in real estate. And like I said, I haven't done this, so I'm not an expert at it by any means, but I have a brief overview of what it is and how it works. The seller finance, usually someone's not going to give you a note for a 30-year mortgage. So a lot of times it'll be similar what Zeb was just talking about with the commercial financing. It'll be like a 25 or 30-year amortization, but then you'll pay the note back in 5 years or something. And the goal with that is basically you get this property, you do some renovations or whatever, you then go refinance it and you pay the note back as before or on that 5 years. And you give the seller their full money back. The benefit to the seller finance for the buyer is that you don't have to deal with a bank originally. You don't have to, there's not a set amount that you have to put down. So that's negotiable between you and the seller. So you could do as little as $10,000 down or whatever you want. I mean, it's whatever is negotiable between the two parties. So there's no like hard lines. So it's a lot more flexible. The benefit for the seller is that when they sell that property, they're going to have to pay capital gains on the money that they've made on it. The benefit to the seller financing is they only have to pay the income as it comes in. So they'll pay a percentage of the income as it comes in. So instead of paying a full $200,000, they'll pay every mortgage payment, they'll pay whatever, $200 or whatever it is. I mean, just throwing random numbers out there, but it breaks down the payments so they don't have to pay a giant chunk all at once. And then it also makes them money on their money. So it gives them, so if they're charging you 5% interest rate, then they're making 5% on their money every month. They're making a mortgage payment. They're getting a mortgage payment from you. So, I mean, someone that's like retiring and they love the cash flow of real estate, but they don't want to deal with the tenants and all that, this is a great scenario for them. A lot of people, they just want to sell and go retire and not deal with anything and just have that money sitting in the bank for themselves. However, this is not something that you could discuss with them and could be a good opportunity. That's something that I would definitely, if you're planning on investing in property, definitely something that I would learn more about, just because I think it's a good opportunity for both sides. And eventually, if you're going for non-commercial properties, eventually, I believe the bank is going to shut you down from buying property because your income requirements just aren't going to meet it anymore. At least that's what I've heard. I obviously haven't gotten to that point. So seller finance could be the next step to basically keep you being able to keep buying them. And then the next thing is there's hard money and private money loans. This is something that's very high interest rates, usually only used for like fix and flips or building properties, different things like that. It's short-term money. It's not something you want to hold long-term. It's 10 to 12% interest with usually some points up front for the loan. And again, not something you want to hold long-term, and it's super expensive to hold. So, but it can be great for fix and flips if you don't have obviously the cash to buy the property, and then you don't want to deal with the bank and you want to close fast or whatever. It basically acts as like a cash offer in a sense, because it's private money. It's coming from an individual person who can basically just lend you that money. So where to look? So I've looked at all different places around Massachusetts just because I would love somewhere that I could drive to that has cheaper property than our area because it's so expensive around here. So I actually mentioned this to Zeb the other day, asking him about like, hey, have you heard of this area at all? Because like you can buy properties for like 250,000 and the cash flow is just amazing. And I mean, I think that it can be good if you have, I mean, Steve with his wisdom was saying like he would do it if there was big enough or enough units, and it makes sense if there's enough units. I think it's tough to do that, the buying far away, if there's only a couple units, just because every time something happens you have to drive there, or you know you're dealing with stuff from 2 hours away, and it can be challenging. Um, However, I've heard of a lot of people buying out of state. That's something that I think is beneficial if you have the right contacts and all that down there, down in wherever you decide to buy. Again, I haven't dove into that part of it too much, like the buying property out of state. I've looked at properties out of state and whatnot, but not to the extent of where I would actually be prepared to buy one, because I think that if you're going to do that, you need to have structure in place where whatever happens, you're going to be able to take care of it. So if there's um, a pipe burst at a building, who can you call? That's so you don't have to jump on a plane to get there and things like that. You know, you just have to be prepared. But yeah, so where to look? I decided to look somewhere right around me. I searched Weymouth. I don't think I put Quincy in there just because there's too many and it was just too high price. I knew I wasn't going to be able to afford them. So I did like Weymouth, Holbrook, Randolph, Abington, Easton, Stoughton, like all of this area, somewhere that I can live relatively close to where I live now and be able to get decent rents and be able to move out in a year and be able to still maintain the property, still be able to take care of the property and not be worried about having to drive an hour away or whatever every time I need to go to the property, or different things like that. But yeah, so that's where I looked. I mean, it really depends on your preference. Like I was talking to someone else the other day, and I was talking to Kristen the other day. She was talking about buying down south, which the cash flow is amazing in other states. There's great opportunity, and the tenant laws are much better for landlords as well as than Massachusetts. Massachusetts has really tough tenant laws, in the sense of it's really hard to get tenants out of their properties, as I'm sure all of you guys know. But so there's a lot of benefits to buying out of state and things like that, but there's also it's far away, and it definitely makes it more challenging, I would imagine. But if you have the right structure in place, I think it's a great way to do it as well. I think that was, yeah, that's the last slide. So let me go back to I think my screen's not shared anymore. Cool. All right, guys. Any questions? Anything that stuck out to you that you guys want to talk about or anything like that?
Yeah, Nate, could you go over exactly how you find it on MLS and how?
Yeah, I can do that.
Really good, thanks.
No problem. Hold on, let me pull up the internet and then I can just share my screen and show you.
Hey Nate, while you're doing that, I was just gonna ask too, like, I see a lot of different properties that look like they're vacant and they may or may not be. One of them in particular, I called the town and they're telling me that the taxes are still being paid each month. So I guess maybe that's one that you write a letter to them or.
Yeah, if the person doesn't live there, I try to find where their address is. The problem with that is, and I haven't found a way around this, and if anybody knows, that would be awesome to share. But if the address, when you pull it up on public record, if the owner address where they live is that address, it becomes an issue because they don't live there. So how do you get to them? You know, so that's where it can be challenging. I mean, there's, you know, we have resources where you can get phone numbers and things like that, with like Cold Directory and whatnot. But that's hit or miss. You know, sometimes you can get them, sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
So that's been a struggle, is finding where those people are when they're not actually living there, but it says they're living there. Has anyone experienced that at all and have a workaround for that? No,
Ask the neighbors.
that's a good idea too. That's a great idea.
They probably don't want to look at the house anymore.
Yeah, they'll probably be happy if you bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They'll
well,
be glad,
yeah,
they'll be glad to give you, this is where I think they are, or some of the systems you go on, if you're looking for somebody's name and number, if you can't find it, they'll give you a relative's name
Hmm.
and a number. Some of those systems kind of break it right down to
mhm.
how old the person is, if there's any juniors, marriage, siblings. I've gone 3 or 4 deep before I finally get a hold of somebody.
Nice.
Yeah, I've had some success with the neighbors. So I'm looking at a property in Kingston, and it's been abandoned for about 10 years. And I went and knocked on the neighbor's house, and they said, of course, yeah. They said this place is ruining our neighborhood.
Yeah, we want this gone.
Here's his name and number. We've been trying to get it sold forever, but good luck. And that's kind of where we went off. But the neighbor was like more than happy to help make the introduction.
That's awesome. That's a great call, guys.
Sometimes the towns are actually after the property too. You know,
What do you mean?
the
They're
Board of
trying to
Health
buy
has
it as
gone
well?
down there, they might take it back. They might assign it to the state.
Okay. Would it still, if the town was after, would it still show up as the owner owning it until it actually gets transferred over?
Where's my camera?
Right. But
Okay.
it's gonna be, if they're paying their taxes, the town has to get it through the Board of Health because it's a health problem, not tax issue.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to share my screen real quick just to show you. I'll do this quickly and just to show you. All right, so that bigger.
Nice to see you using command, Nate.
Yeah. All right, so what I do is first thing is absentee owner. I put yes. So you can check the magnifying glass right here and it'll tell you what he's supposed to do, yes or no, or Y or N. So I put yes, and then and then you add that. Then the next thing, which Kristen just showed me, which is so cool, you can look up number of unit. Oh no, it's not under
Yep.
this.
Next to, right to the, oh, there you go, yeah.
State code, right?
Yep.
Okay. So then you want to do, you can do 3 family residents, and then you can do 4 to 8 units. So this can be tough because there's going to be 8 unit, 7 unit properties coming up. But what you could do also is do the 4 to 8 units. And then, so do those automatically just get added in? Oh yeah, cool. All right. So you do the 48 units, and then you can still do bathroom count if you wanted, just to do anything less than say like 6 bathrooms or something, just to make sure. So you want to do
1,000 plus.
You could do number of units, I think, on that.
yeah
Under
you
the left side, we have the half bath number of baths too.
oh, you can
I looked it up under multi-families that way.
number of rooms.
I don't see it there at the moment.
No, I couldn't find it on this last time I was doing this. But that's okay. So you can do number of baths if you want, and then I will do last sale last sale date is what I want. Where is this? Huh. All right. Well, the last sale date is somewhere in. Oh, sorry. It's right here. Okay. So this you want to do. I did less than anything before 2016. So I just did like 2006. So I just did before 2012. And then say you want to do town of Weymouth. And then I would just go search. And boom, pops up all properties that are 3 family, 4 to 8 units that were purchased before. Oh,
Zillions.
I did it backwards though. It's supposed to be this way, the arrow. I always mess that part up. All right, there we go. So before 2012. So you can see last sale date. So I usually will go down by the last sale price after, because I don't want anything that was sold for 900,000, for instance, that I'm not gonna be able to afford that personally. So I start to get rid of these ones, the 4.5 million. Um, it can't hurt to still start a conversation with those people, because worst case scenario, if they don't want to sell, it costs you 49 cents to send a letter or whatever. Um, does that answer how you do the search to see it? Did that all make
Yeah.
sense?
That makes sense. Thank you so much, Nate. Thanks.
All right, not a problem at all. Now how do I get back to the, oh, stop share. Ha, getting so good at this. Any other questions or anything that I can show you that I did or anything? Oh, just to point out a message that Zeb sent in the messages, take advantage of the interest rates. Were you saying the interest rates now, Zeb?
I am. If that was during the section you're talking about, when's a good time to buy?
Yeah,
You know, and Kristen and you both said anytime, but the interest rates where they're at now, it's just a terrific time to get a piece of property.
yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I think that, I mean, you guys see for your clients all the time what the interest rates are. It doesn't change when you're buying multifamily. I was locked in, I think at 2 points, I think it was 6.5 or something for a 3-family for 5% down. So like I could keep that loan forever, you know, and not have to refinance, because the PMI is going to drop off after 7 or so roughly years, and my payment will drop a little bit. And so, I mean, Zeb's right. Like the interest rates are so incredible right now, and it really does make such a difference.
Rates are going,
Mm,
prices.
I know.
Nate, you might drop off in like 3 months the way the prices are going.
Huh?
You could
Yeah, I
drop
know,
off in 3
right?
months the rate the prices are going.
So I thought that I asked them that because I was like, can I just, when I do the renovation, have the appraiser come back out and then get that dropped off? And he's like, no, it has to be through payments. He's like, you might be able to do it, but it's most likely going to be through payments. And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, because I'm going to probably have 20% equity in it when I'm done with all the renovations, I would imagine, or at least close to it.
I'd go right back to him with that one. I don't buy that 100%.
Okay, cool. I definitely will. Because that would be huge. I mean, it's like PMI sucks. It's like 230 or
Yeah.
$300 a month or something. It's just crazy. Wasted money. Yeah. Anything else, guys? Any other questions that you want to ask?
Where did you buy your house?
In Abington, right on Bedford Street. Actually, right near Bill. Right near where Bill was.
That's the true keys.
Yep, right next to True Cheese.
Which side? The right side or the left side?
The right side, the White House there.
The barn?
No. No, so at the end of that, right? It's on the corner of Bedford and Temple. To the right of True Cheese, or however
The
you
little
say it.
street right there, it's a cut through?
Yeah, the first house on the right there, the white one.
Yeah, good for you. I know exactly
Yeah.
where it is.
And I feel like it was a decent price too. I mean, I bought it for it was 444,
Yes.
but I paid 455 with 11,000 back at closing to cover all my closing costs, so that I could basically be able to put all that money into renovation. And so, I mean, I paid 450-ish roughly for a 3-family, which I thought that was, I mean, it comped out great. Like it's worth a little more than that before it gets renovated. So it'll be a good property long term. It'll cash flow nicely. Yeah. And just just for my own, just to let you guys know, my goals for that is for any investment property that I buy is to hold it for the long term. I don't plan on ever selling it or trying to make a quick 50,000 off of it or anything like that. I want to hold it and get the cash flow and be able to retire at a young age and partially retire, I guess, at a young age and be able to just keep buying investment properties. So that's where I want to head, is just be able to get that cash flow. So for me, the fix and flips and all those, I mean, they're great for the quick money, but for like multifamilies, it's not something that I would personally be interested in, just because I want to hold that. But who knows? I mean, maybe if the right property came up where you can make a crazy amount off it by condoizing it or something, might be worth it. Yeah.
So
And
Nate, what's the goal? Were you telling me one a year?
at first, yeah, but my goal is I want to buy, which I have a couple years to do this. I want to buy 30, be able to just start buying them. So I'm going to get, for the next couple years, I'm going to get, well, at least next year, I'm going to buy another multifamily under owner occupied. I don't know if I'll be able to get away with it a third year. So I'm going to have to go to the 20 to 25% down. And so that's something that I want to move toward, is just doing that full time, is finding investment properties, and whether it's with partners or however. But that's what I want to move into. And I mean, you see like a lot of guys doing like big syndication deals and stuff like that. I'm not so interested in that per se. Is more, I mean, although you can make crazy good money on it, it's a lot of risk. You're messing with a lot of people's money and a lot of money. I mean, if you're good at it, that's fine. I just don't know if that's the route that I would want to go.
Mhm. And I'm looking at, I have to talk to him today, but I have a call with Keller Mortgage.
Hmm.
So I'm going to talk to them because there's no closing costs with them, and they reimburse you for the home inspection, in the appraisal.
That's amazing.
So for that, it's like, why spend an extra like $6,000 or $10,000 in closing costs when
Mhm.
we can go through Keller Mortgage? So I'll let you know how that works out. I know agents in our office have used them for their clients and everyone's been happy with them. So I'm going to talk to them about the investing part of it and see how that goes.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely let me know how that goes, because I would be interested in hearing more about that. I didn't even think about that.
Mm.
I mean, Bob definitely hooked it up when I got my loan, just because I give him a lot of business. But
Sure. Yeah.
but I mean, no closing cost is incredible. How do they do that with like taxes and insurance and all that? Because that's part of the.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Still have an
I'd love
escrow
to
agent
learn more
somewhere.
about that.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
When you bought your property, because they weren't, it wasn't up for sale,
Yeah.
right? You got,
No.
did they find their own agent to represent them?
No, I just no, because I mean, I wasn't coming to them as an agent. I was coming as just as someone buying. I told them that they should hire an attorney to be able to handle their purchase and sale and stuff. And they were like, "Yeah, we have someone that we use to buy the properties and stuff, so we'll use that person." I mean, they weren't like big investors or anything. They own a few properties. He's a young guy. He's a firefighter, and he just owns like a few properties around. So I mean, I tried to like kind of guide him in a sense of like telling him like, okay, this is what you should do next if you want to sell this, like if we want to work this deal out, I would suggest getting an attorney so that they can do the purchase and sale and all that, just because obviously wanted them to be protected as well, and not, I wasn't trying to do anything sleek or shady or anything like that. You know what I mean? So I just want them to, I try to be transparent with it basically. That's how I try to operate whenever talking to any homeowner, just because if I was a homeowner, I'd want someone to be transparent to me. And I know that I'd be more likely to help someone or want to sell to them if they're transparent about it,
And then you want to make sure it gets to the closing table, right?
Yeah, that's
So
it.
to tell them, hey, you need to do the smokes, or
Yeah.
you get to
Yeah.
closing and they didn't do it. The other thing too is they get to save the commission part of it. So
Yeah.
they can save 5%. So you can always discuss that when you're negotiating with them.
Yep.
That,
Exactly. That was part of the discussion too, was that they don't have to pay a commission.
Mhm.
And I mean, after a little while, like after I had a conversation with him, I told him that I worked in real estate and stuff too. So, I mean, he understood that he got the value of not paying the commission and stuff. So, I mean, an extra 5% is a good amount of money.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, guys. Any other questions before we sign off?
Thanks, Nate.
Yeah, thank you,
Good
Nate.
job, Nate. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for coming.
Appreciate
Guys.
it. Yeah.
Thank you, Nate.
My pleasure. All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. And I mean, I don't have too much experience. I'm learning as I go and trying to learn as much as I can. But if I can ever answer any questions, I'm happy to help. So feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thanks, Nate.
Thank
All
you.
right, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.